to another episode of Coffee Hour. Hey, we're at what day is it? What day is it? That's right. It's hump day. We are halfway through the week. Y'all are making the money. We're learning the code. We're having a good time. Life is good. Okay. If you're having any challenges in your life, stay strong, stay focused. You'll get by it. You'll get over it. Okay. People say hell is the worst place to be. Okay, that's true, but you can make hell on earth. So it's up to you to do something about it to change that in your life. And hopefully you get your start in the morning. If you're upset or you're mad or whatever, you pull out a little cup of coffee, have a little break with me, and maybe it makes your day just a little bit better. Guys, there's no better trade in the world than being an electrician. And I love every day of it. There is not a day. There's our cups, by the way. There is not a day in this trade that I can ever remember that I hated it. There was days where there was some crap that you had to deal with, but I can tell you right away, when I was doing electrical work in the field, yes, that's right, folks. I was in the field. I know it's hard to believe, but I looked forward to getting up in the morning. I looked forward to going and doing the work. It was just, I can't think of any other trade. I can't think of when I started my journey in the electrical industry back when I was 15 years old. Thank God for my brother. Thank God for Bob Barrett at vocational school. I was a troubled teen. If it hadn't been for me finding electricity at the vocational school and really being taken under his wing as my mentor over at the vocational school, Bob Barrett, who was known throughout the state is one of the premier educators when it came to the trades. And he just literally took me under his wing. It used to make my dad upset because I'd always refer to Bob as like a father figure, and it would really tick my dad off. But my dad knew I loved him. But Bob was something special. And he took me from being that real troubled, getting into trouble teen who always pumped his chest out thinking he was bigger than he was, to somebody that could really learn the trade. And I took it and I just ran with it. And I am so blessed. And I can't look back. Almost 40 years of this trade. I've loved every minute of it, whether it's my teaching part or the part in the field. I loved every part of it. Okay, enough of that saga. Welcome to Coffee Hour. Thanks for joining me and taking time out of your day to join me. If you're first timer to the show, we love having you here. Just do me a favor. Give me your name, where you're from, and if you're a fast track student, and tell us a little bit about your day. Come on, share it in the comments. If you're a recurring member, we appreciate you as always. Thank you for coming back and joining us. I already see some folks in the chat that are our regulars that join us every day for Coffee Hour. I appreciate you immensely. Thank you for joining and being part of the family. But do me a favor, folks. Anybody that's here, just let us know your name, where you're from. Maybe let me know what the weather's like in your area. We love to share that stuff, and I love living vicariously through students. Maybe you're taking an exam and you're struggling. If you fail an exam, that's okay. That's okay. We'll get you through it. Just be patient. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and once you get that license, they can't take it away from you unless you do something stupid. All you got to do is renew it and renew your credits, and you'll be fine. Nobody cares whether you got 100 on the exam or you got 5 on the exam, right? You know, nobody cares. Once you pass it, that's all that matters. So just stay focused. It's never the end of the world. Don't go to the edge of the cliff just because you fail an exam. Yeah, I know you may have put months in, you may have studied really hard, and it's very depressing. I get it. But there's a future. Stay with it. Stay motivated. Let that drive you. Don't let that turn you the other way. I'm just saying. All right, let's do some shout outs into the room and see what we got going on today, folks. We got Tino in the house. Good morning, Tino. Thank you for taking your time to join me today. And Tino does set the tone today when it comes to getting in on the spin. As you can see right here, if you do #win, just like Tino did it, all caps, that's the secret to get in on the spin. We're going to spin later on and see if we can't give some goodies away. Paul, a regular down in Houston. Thanks for joining us, Paul. Glad to have you here. And Paul also sets the tone with #win. So that's what I'm talking about. I got to put my phone on silent. Sorry about that, folks. I just realized I did not do that. That's we're gonna start doing negative points for the host. So because I didn't do that, I get negative points. So I got to make it up. Let's see here. Adams, good morning to everybody. Got his pints. I listen to this pints with an S and a little period after it, meaning that I am a rambler. And he's just letting everybody know I'm a rambler. Good morning, Van Man. Thank you for joining. Adam got the hashtag win. I can see you in there. Christopher, good morning. Thanks for joining the show. These are regulars. I appreciate you, the support that y'all give the show by joining it. And I know y'all share it with everybody. Again, I appreciate it. I can't think of any other electrical focused. Think about it. Is there another electrical show that's for electricians that's live, that's daily in the intranet universe, whatever? Is there? I don't think there is. So, for us code nerds and us electrical geeks, this is the place to be. So share it with everybody. Okay. Good morning, Terrence, my man up here in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, getting that hashtag win. Good morning, Kendra. Thanks for joining. And Kendra gets that hashtag win as well. So does Edgar's throwing that hashtag win in there. They know the deal. Good morning, Charlie. Hope everything's going okay with the baby and the wife. But we're going to have to get Charlie to upgrade his win there to a hashtag all caps there. We got to work on that. Let's see here. Rob over on Fast Tracks 2, checking out, making sure the tube is running. Got you there. Good morning. Glad to have you here. And Edgar's good morning. Thank you, Edgar. Dominic's in the house. Good morning. Glad to have you here, Dominic. The melting toast is in with the hashtag win. Adam's in here, and this is why we watch the show. The honesty you bring to us all. Thanks. Oh, you're most welcome. I am a guy that's going to share it like it is. I got no secrets. I'll tell you how it is and what my opinion is. Sometimes it hurts feelings, but it is what it is. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to put out content or hide behind a book or hide behind some DVD or something and not share who I really am. I am what I am. You can ask me anything. Okay. Paul says, can you remind us when and why we use the optional method rather than the what did you ask? Well, it's not really the load calculations 220.40. That's just part 3. So the real question is, why would we use an optional? Well, you always use an optional because it's going to result in a smaller service. And that's what we're after. I mean, if you want to just run larger conductors as a contractor arbitrarily, that's fine. If you want to make things bigger than they necessarily need to be, that's fine too. That's why they call it optional, right? On an exam, you always, if you're taking an exam, you always assume the standard, the regular method. We call it standard, part 3, but it's the method, right? That is the method to calculations. You only can use the optional when they tell you you can. That's why they call it optional. So in the real world, you're probably always going to use the optional because the optional is going to, especially for single family, like in our topics, the single family it's always going to yield the smaller service, right? So again, as long as you understand that it takes in diversity, and it does, and that it's been here for a long time, so it's founded in good logic. You're never using all of these appliances and everything at the same time. It's just there's a mix. Then the optional method works. But there's a difference between exam mentalities, right, and real world mentalities. And in the real world, you're probably always going to migrate to the optional method because, again, I don't want to put in 4-aught when I could get away with 2-aught. And I know that sounds terrible to my wiring cable friends because we'd like you to always use the largest conductors out there, but I'm honest. I tell you like it is. So that's the deal. It's also why in the code we're allowed to use 310.12 because that is not optional. The 83% is a code rule. So when it comes to a dwelling calculation, for example, if it falls within those nice tidy parameters of 110.12, which of 310.12, which is the 83% rule, why can we use it? Because it's not an optional. It is a rule. It's there, and it's only for sizing conductors. So why can we use it? Because we fall in those parameters. It's not an exception. So I think that's probably one of the toughest things for people to grab their head around, is that rules, the code kind of bounces you back and forth a little bit, and it can get confusing for folks. But standard method, or part 3, we should probably say, in Article 220 is the go-to for exams. Unless they tell you otherwise, then you can use the optional. In the real world, you're going to use the optional because it's going to yield the lowest result for the service. So it brings in diversity. And then, of course, does 310.12, the 83% rule, when it comes to the service conductors and certain feeders, does that always apply? Yes, as long as you fall within those parameters. Absolutely. So best way I can answer that question for you, Paul. Let's see here. Tino says, I still think my first journeyman, I still think my first journeyman till today. I'm sure I understand that, Tino. But there you go. Good morning. Still on the cable pull. Got the code book up in the lift. You're still up in that lift? License this year. There you go, man. Let's go. This is it. This is your year. This is your year. Good morning. Outdoor man. Alex. Is it Alex, Indiana? Or is your name Alex? I think it's Alex, Indiana. Hashtag win. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully I answered your question, Paul. Good morning, Iberto. Thanks for having us. See here. Good morning, Dan. Fast track student there. Dan, thank you for joining us. Dave Carter's in the house. Good morning, Dave. Thanks for joining us. Let's see here. What do we got here? Here, my name is Marcel. I'm 14 years in the field. I'm also a YouTube content creator. Welcome. Thanks for joining the show. Robert from San Antonio. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for joining us. Remember, hashtag win, just like it says right there, all caps if you can. Good morning, Crypto. Thank you. Let's see. Sell expression. If you're just here to do self-promotion, we're not going to have it. Sorry. Let's see here. You do that on somebody else's channel. Let's see here. I never use caps, and I won several times. Okay, good. Well, Charlie, there you go, Charlie. Charlie's letting us know that you doesn't have to be all caps, and he has won several times. See? Thank you, Charlie. I don't know how the system, that part of it works. I should probably know, but I don't. But thank you. That explains everybody. All right. Just hashtag win. I won't say it anymore. It doesn't matter how you do it. Then we're good to go. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. I should have asked somebody that. Appreciate you. There you go, Frank. Hump day. That's what I'm talking about. Good morning. Cray. What's up, Cray from Tennessee? Thanks for joining us. Okay. Let's see here. Dominique, we'll do that in another episode. But I do have a video. I think you have Fast Tracks Tube. Go to Fast Tracks Tube and search for a supply side bonding jumper. I have an extensive video on that already, on how to do all that sizing already. But again, we may introduce that into a coffee hour. Not going to do it today. We have to finish our application of optional method. But I do have a very detailed video on supply side bonding number. Okay. Oh, okay. Outdoor Alex is the name. Good. I'll try to remember that. My wife has the early stages of Alzheimer's, and I think it rubs off on me. So, Alex, I will try to remember that. Outdoor man. I'm used to just calling people by their username, but I will do my best to remember that. Okay. Let's see here. Again, Dominic, I have a very extensive video on that over on Fast Tracks Tube. I encourage you to go watch that. Let's see. Adam says, sitting here with your son, who's 14. What's up, son? Dad, and he said, Dad, I want to be an electrician. There you go, baby. Let me tell you what. Let me talk to your son right now. This is for your son. One thing to remember, as everybody goes into technology and everybody keeps talking about AI and all these other things, and kids go to school, they go to college. I'm not discouraging you from going to school or going to college. You need to get your education. But at some point in your life, you decide to be an electrician. There is no better trade out there. You can be your own boss if you want to be. You can make your money. You can be a lead. If you don't want to be a boss, you can be the best you can be as a journeyman. Stand out, make a name for yourself, make your father proud. Okay, that's what it should all be about. But the other thing is you have so many opportunities, and the world is your oyster. And there is no other trade, in my opinion, that is better than electrical. If you want to be an electrician, don't be halfway. You're 14. Okay, you're going to have a lot of influences in your life. You're going to have a lot of people pulling you in other directions. Think about it. The time that you spend in these early years are going to dictate the rewards that you receive in your midlife, in your later years. So you do want to be an electrician, and 14 is perfect because right at 15, I knew what I wanted to be. Then make it an obsession. Learn about it. Study it. Remember, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's politicians, there's plumbers, mechanical, electricians, okay? We're the wizards of wire. So that's what you want to be. Engulf yourself into it. Be the best you can be. Never cut any corners. If something, you look at something as a learning electrical, if there's something you don't understand, make it a focus to learn it. Use Trade Hog. Ask it questions. Don't get complacent. You're going to do great things. You should be very proud, Dad. Absolutely. Let's see here. Outdoor says he needs to change his username over on YouTube. Yeah, it's tough. Once you do a name over there, it's tough to change stuff. Let's see here. Joey says, I won Fast Tracks Tube. How do I go about that? Remember, that's just a subscription. You didn't win Fast Tracks, the program. You won a tube. All you do is go to fasttrackstube.com. Go to the top where it says member plans. Click on it and sign up for a free membership, and then reach out to us in an email or let us know, or we'll see it, and we'll elevate you. Usually within 48 hours, we'll do that. Okay, that type of thing. All right, let's get into today's lesson here and kind of pick up where we were, and let's kind of finish out this thing on, but we got some good mornings here. Logan, is that his name, Logan? All right, Logan, stay at it, stay focused. Logan, I make you a promise. I'm only 50-some years old, so I'm going to be around for a while. So I should be around as you progress in your career. You have my own personal commitment to help you out. You ever need me, you just reach out to me, Logan. I'll help you. All right, let's see here. Andre, good morning. I would like to buy one of your courses. I took the test 2 times already and didn't pass. Okay, well, go to Fast Tracks right here. You see it right here, fasttracksystem.com. Check them out. Watch the demo. You see it's extensive. We have a feature called Fast Tracks Interact that allows you to ask questions right in the course. Nobody else has something like that. So again, we're here for you. Check it out. Got to be patient, but it's okay. Even if you fail 2 times, doesn't matter. Stay focused. It's discouraging, isn't it? But stay focused. You'll get it. It may be your study habits. You may not test well. You may get anxiety when you test and things like that, but we can help you. And okay, Zeker, good morning and welcome. All right, let's get to the lesson. All right, so we if you haven't watched, this is part 3 of the optional method series. And also, by the way, if you want to watch our video on the optional method, it is also available over on Fast Tracks Tube as well, an entire optional method series. Many videos on step-by-step. It is. So that's why, people ask me about the Fast Tracks Tube. It is a supplement to your training. It's not to take the place of anything, and that's what we designed it for. It's a supplemental, and it's our own proprietary video platform. And it's slow because I use Jeff does a lot of stuff for me, but he does a lot of stuff in the background. I try to be the face and try to do some of the stuff in teaching and the background stuff. So it's slow. I don't have a lot of hands here. We don't have a lot of people. So again, I have subcontractors that are helping with the interactive video stuff that we're doing. But at the end of the day, it's a slow process. But Fast Tracks Tube is growing, and I encourage you to check it out. It's an awesome video platform. Okay, and it's included with all enhanced courses. Okay, all right. So we kind of did this. So part one and part two, we went over the first part of this where we put together all of the square footages and 3 VA per square foot, and we did the appliances and cooking. And so we took the first, with all the appliances and all of the other circuitry with 3 VA per square foot, we took the first 10,000 at 100% and took the remainder at 40%, and we did that. And that was B, 220.82B. And then we did C, which was part two of this series. Go back and watch it if you didn't see it. We pulled together and did the heating and air conditioning, and we even gave you an option if it was a heat pump, because usually they're pretty straightforward, but we just figured, why not? Let's just go into what it would be if it was a heat pump. Now, of course, we didn't have the nameplate rating, so we just had to make something up by using all of the AC and air handler components and just add them together because we didn't have a nameplate. But typically in the real world, if you're doing a heat pump, you're going to have a nameplate, or you demand one from the HVAC guy or the builder or the contractor, whatever, because you got to have that to do your calculation. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we sized the service. We did everything. Hell, we even went and sized the grounding electroconductor to the water pipe in episode number 2. So go check that out if you missed it. We're not going to rehash all that stuff. Okay. What's up, Angel? I'm doing good. Thank you for joining me. And welcome. I got 2 angels that popped in there. And Haas. Good morning, Haas. Glad you're in here. So, all right. So we did the crunch time. This was our crunch time, and we did the math, okay? And we came up with 136 amps. And here you see we went through a scenario of what if it was a heat pump. So make sure you go watch that, all right? So we did our math and everything, and we sized it right here. So this is where we sized everything. So the next logical question is folks say, okay, that's good. I know how to size my service. All right, we happen to use 310.12, which is the 83% rule, because we fell right in that parameter. It's not an exception, it's a rule. So if somebody says, well, I can't use that unless they tell me I can. No, that's not true. That is a rule in the code. It's not an exception. There's a big difference. If they tell you on an exam not to use exceptions, that isn't an exception. 310.12 is very applicable as long as the parameters are met. And ours met that parameter. So we sized everything. So make sure you go back and watch episode 2 of this optional method. Or again, you could go over and watch the full regular series over on Fast Tracks 2. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is we get, okay, that's all done. I need to size this neutral. Now, in the mini world, people will just choose an SE cable, and the grounded neutral conductor is typically per standard. If you use an SC cable, for example, like an SCU, the grounded conductor, I don't know whether you knew this or not, but the grounded conductor, or that helical that wraps around it, that you bring together and twist it and make your own conductor, cannot be more than 2 sizes smaller than the hot, or the ungrounded hots. So I don't know if you knew that or not. So if you're ever wondered if you got 4-aught aluminum and you have an SC cable, which basically looks like an NM cable on steroids, bigger, but you notice that it's gray and it has this fiberglass wrap, and you have all these strands around it that are helical. That's what we call it. When you pull all those strands together, it's equivalent to, it can't be more than 2 sizes smaller than whatever the phase conductors are. So if it's 4-aught aluminum, then that helical together equates to a 2-aught. Now, where do we get that? That's in the standard. So that's a requirement for the manufacturers of the cable. Okay, so they already take care of that for you. Now, the vast majority of the time that people get so used to doing that, they don't even size the neutral because they buy the standard cable and they realize this. But what if you're running a raceway and you're running individual conductors? Well, you might be able to use that as a rule of thumb. If you size the 4-aughts for something, then you know that your neutral can't be more than 2 sizes smaller, not because it can't be, because you know that that's what the cable manufacturers use. So you might just use that as a rule of thumb. I don't recommend it. You're going to either do the neutral the full size, right? Which you can do. And a lot of engineers will do that because they don't want to And we're talking dwellings now. We're not talking commercial where you might have a 4-wire, 3-phase Y with harmonics and all that, and the neutral current's going to be equal to or greater than those of the phase. Then you size it larger. It's not what we're talking about. That's a totally different episode. We're talking dwellings. Okay? So you're not going to have all that. So you either size the neutral to full size because you don't want to do the math and you're just like, screw it. Or you realize that it can't, a cable, it couldn't be more than 2 times smaller, so you just make it 2 times smaller. But I encourage you to learn how to do the calculation. I really do. Now, as you can see here, this was our calculation. Now, you notice the things that I have highlighted. These are the only things that you're going to be using for your neutral calculation. Now, we're going to have to use the standard method for this, so this will be a great refresher. But I'm only going to be taking into account the loads that are neutral specific, means they have a neutral component. Other than that, they're not going to have any contribution to the neutral. Like those 240 volt loads are typically not going to have a contribution. Now, there is a caveat. What you do not see highlighted here is the dryer and the cooking, because they're not pure neutral loads like the others, okay? But it does have a neutral contribution, and we're going to see where that is in the NEC, and we'll see what that contribution is, okay? So I just wanted to give you a slide first that says, okay, you see all these items. These are the known things that have a neutral component, right? But we also got to remember that dryers and cooking, like a range, like these countermounted, if you run 4 conductors to it, black, red, white, and an equipment ground, you're going to have a neutral contribution, whether it's the timer, whether it's the lights in the unit or something. You're going to have it. Okay, so there is an almost spilled my coffee. There is an element that you're going to have to take into consideration, but this just gets us started. Okay, so everything that we did in the standard method up front with the VA per square foot, 3 VA per square foot, the small appliance branch circuits at 1500 VA each, the laundry at 1500 VA, all of that, everything that we did in day 1 on this for the standard method when we did the standard method, all of this is still going to apply here, okay? When we go back on, I guess it was day 1 of the standard method we did a couple weeks ago. Make sure you go back and watch it. All of that stays the same because all of that is a what? Is a neutral load contribution, okay? All right, let's just kind of walk through this. Okay, so here, if you remember back when we did the standard method, and I kind of rehash it here for you, remember, 35 times 55 is 1925. Again, this is using the standard method. But we take away that 70, which is the open porch, okay? And that drops it back down to 1855. And then it's 3 VA per square foot. That gives us 5,563, okay? So that is our 3 VA per square foot value, okay? Then remember we had the 4 small appliance branch circuits at 1500 VA each. That's 6,000. We had 2 laundry at 1500 VA each. That's 3,000. And that was a total. And again, remember what I said, do not, Logan, learn this early in your electrical journey. Do not trust what your daddy says when it comes to electrical. Everything else, trust your daddy. Always verify yourself. Be that kind of guy. Be that person that doesn't just take what somebody says as gospel. If it doesn't sound right, make sure you validate what people say. I hate to say that early on in a career, being skeptical, but in the electrical trade, too many people are believing what people say as rule of thumbs or propagating falsehoods or just because somebody that's an authority figure says something that we tend to believe it, okay? Now, an authority figure tells you to do something, you do it, okay, within reason, obviously, but that doesn't mean that you can't be inquisitive about it and want to learn from it. Why tell me to do it? I need to know why I do it. So don't be afraid to be that guy, okay? Ask questions and no dumb questions, especially when you're early on. It's like, look, there's no dumb question. Just ask it. And that's a great way to use the hog too. So daddy, teach him how to use the hog. Ask those questions. And also, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you, my brother used to do this real quick, just to give you this little thought process here, Paul. The way we do it here, the little thought process. Don't be afraid, Dad, to explain things just in the blue. If a kid's interested in electrical, you're just in the basement and you point a receptacle. Point that receptacle out and show you the prongs. Show why the prongs would make it a 15. What does it need to be a 20 amp rated? And you go, what's the difference? And, use everything as a teaching moment. And if you make it inquisitive, they'll suck it in and want to learn. That type of thing. Okay. With all that said, my son wanted nothing to do with me and electricity, and I think it was because he felt, I don't know. I'm a bit of a hard figure to grow up with in the electrical industry because he was growing up at the time where I was writing a lot of books and traveling around the country and doing webinars and seminars and book signings, and for some reason he was struggling in school, and so me seeing, I guess, some success that I had in the industry, rather than let me help him, he rebelled against it. Okay, so don't be like him, Logan. You've already identified that's what you want to do. Everything move forward. Learn. Okay, now maybe you'll change your mind as you get older. That's okay too. But again, learn all you can. Life is short. All right, so let's add these numbers together real quick to make sure we're right here on the screen. So we got 5565 plus 6,000 plus, bear with me, guys, because I am blind, 14,565. So that's right. All right. So again, the first 3,000 at 100, and the remaining 11,565 at 35%. Right. And where do we get that from in the code? Might as well show everybody real quick, just so we can show everybody. We go over here to the code. We'll go to 220. And I just show everybody where it's at because, again, I always get those folks that don't understand. So here it is 220.45. It was 220.42 in the previous edition. But we are always in the latest edition of the National Electrical Code. All right. So here you see right here. Now notice it says lighting, but it also applies to general use receptacles as well. Okay, so first 3,000 at 100, the next 117,000, or as we say, 3,001 to 120 at 35. So if you hear the term next 117,000, that's just 117,000 plus 3,000. That's where you get the 120. But since the 100%, the first 3,000 was put aside, it's basically the next 117,000. You get it? It's just the way we say it. But if it gets you confused, just look at the table. First 3,000, you just put that amount to the side and then subtract that from your total. And then whatever you have left, multiply that by 35%. And that's how we're doing it. Okay. All right. So that's what we did. So here, first 3,000 at 100%. So we put that 3,000 aside. That leaves us 11,565 at 35%. Okay. And what should that be? So I'm going to do the math. I'm going to do 11,565 times 0.35. 4,047.75. So we're rounding that to 4,048. Then we're going to bring the 3,000 back that we set aside at 100%. And that's how we get to 7,048. So that is all of those loads were 120 volt loads. So that is obviously going to be a neutral contribution. And this is essentially the same way we did it. What's up, RI? Thanks for joining. That's the same way we did the standard method. So again, we're doing a standard method, right? We're doing a standard method for the neutral calculation. Okay, so that's what we did. So that's our first value, right? So the next part is we're looking at the appliances, and we only want the appliances that are dealing with 115 or 120 volts. Okay, so in our example, that's all we're dealing with. Okay, now on an exam, again, you take what they give you. Okay, all right. So here we've got this first one, the dishwasher, which is utilization equipment. It's an appliance. It's 10 times 120. It's 1,200 VA. Got it. The in-sink waste disposer we have. Remember the first thing I always say, folks, when you have a horsepower rating, what do? You got to go back to the table. So table 430.248, that's our motors. That's our FLC. And we got it, which was 9.8 amps. And we multiply that by 115% because that's what's given in the example. and that is 1127 VA. The trash compactor, 7.5 amps. We're going to use our normal electrical math. What do we do? Amps times volts equals watts. Watts is synonymous with VA. Always remember that basic rules. So 7.5 amperes, okay, times 120 volts. That's going to give us 90 VA for that trash compactor. And then we have those 3 Addix fans. Well, we'll just kind of just add them all up together because they were 4.2 amps each. So that's 12.6. We do that times 120. That is 1,512. Don't trust me. Do the math. All right. And so we add all that up, and I'm going to add all this up, make sure that we get right. So 1,200 plus 1,127 plus 900. Remember, folks, we're doing the neutral. Okay. And that is 4739. So there we go. Show you right on the trusty old Casio. So Mr. Casio is right today. All right. So there we go. Now, what I set for the standard. So here's some of the important stuff to remember. You're doing the neutral and you're doing the standard method. You get to apply all of the demands that you applied to the hot conductors. You still get to apply them, if applicable, to the neutral. I think that is the one thing that people get confused about. If it's good for the hot conductors, it's good for the neutral as well. So I get to apply the allowance of the 75% in 220.53 if I have what? 4 or more appliances, okay, fastened in place. All right, so I've got 4 or more. How many do I have? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I definitely have enough to be able to use the demands. If it's good for the hots, it's good for the neutral, right? That's something to lock away in the brain because people forget that. All right, so in this case, the 4,739 at 75% demand, that's given to us in 220.53. Then that would be 3,554.25. I'm going to double check the math. 4,739 times 0.75. 3,554.25. Absolutely. We're going to drop the 0.25 because we can, and 220.5 tells us we can. So that is 3,554 VA. Okay. Now, by the way, in the real world, if you don't want to drop this, that's also fine. At the end of the day, it all works out. So if you want to keep it, it's not going to make a difference in the overall scheme of life. Okay. All right. All right. Now, those dryers, those cooking, we're doing the standard method, okay? And so you have to refocus and do your cooking the same way you would in the standard method, in the way we would have done it if we did the standard part 3 method, okay? We're not in the, we did the optional, but you got to remember that now we're doing the neutral, so we got to jump back to the part 3 method, okay, to do this, to size this. All right, so in that scenario, what was our cooking? Well, it says that our dryer, first of all, our dryer was 5.5 kW. Well, what does it say under the standard method? It says that the dryer is going to be 5,000 or the nameplate, whichever is greater, right? Where do we get that? 220.54, okay? So in our case, it's 55 kW or 5.5 kVA or 5,500 watts or 5,500 VA. However you flavor it, okay, they're all the same. I like to solve in VA, get it to VA as quick as I can because I know they're synonymous and the code tells us as such. So in this case, since my nameplate is 5.5, it is greater. What's up, James? Thanks for joining. My 5.5 is greater than 5, then we're going to use the nameplate, which is 5.5, okay? Now, the code says that I can take that in 220.61b, that I can take that at an additional demand of 70%. Now, folks say, Paul, where do I see that in the code? Okay, well, let's take you real quick here because I do want to show you that so that you have the context of what we're talking. Now, I will point out, you notice, see here, here's where part 4 starts, right here. Okay, so you know when we're talking about the sizing of that neutral right here, 220.61, you know where it's sitting now. Just a reminder to folks, it's sitting right here in part 3. That's why we're having to use part 3 to do this. Again, I get it, for many people that can be confusing, but that is where we're at. That's why we're doing it. Okay. So we're going to go to the 20.61. All right. And you go down here to permitted reductions. And you'll notice down here it says a service or feeder supplying the following loads shall be permitted to have an additional demand factor of 70% applied to the amount in 220.61b1 and a portion of the amount of 220.61b2. Well, we're falling under this right here. This right here, this is the if you happen to have a neutral load calculation that exceeds 200 amps. Now, this is kind of funny because in previous cycles, it didn't say and right here. It said or. So if your calculation, you used the 70% allowance in your calculation, then you couldn't use this down here, even if it was over 200 amps, okay? An additional reduction. You had to use this. If you used this one in your calc, then you were stuck with it because it said or right here. But in the 2023, you see this is grayed out. It says and. So both of these can be applied if it's applicable. In other words, if we calculate our neutral and we use the 70% like we're getting ready to do for our cooking in our dryer, but the load for the neutral still happen to be larger than 200, then we can take an additional reduction. That's the importance of that word and, folks. Go back and look at your code and see what it was in your cycle. If it said or, then you choose either or. And to be honest with you, if it was under 200, then you wouldn't need to use the other one. You would just be using the 70%, that type of thing. But anyway, we cover that in other videos that we do. But again, so important to learn the little nuances in the code. Ands and ors can make a huge difference in understanding the NEC. Really can. And I think it's so interesting in our trade, that type of thing. So here's the one we're using right here. So number one, it says, okay, so we want to see if we can apply the 70%. It says a feeder or service supplying household electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, counter-mounted cooking, and electric dryers. Okay, so this covers all we're getting ready to look at. It says where the maximum unbalanced load has been determined in accordance with 220.55 or for ranges and 220.54 for dryers. So that is the values that we've already worked with and we came up with. And that is the value here, 5,500 for the dryer. And we'll look at the cooking here in a second. So 5,500, we're able to apply that 70%, 0.70 multiplier. And that is 3,850. That is our neutral contribution for the dryer. Okay, because it's why we run 4 wires to a dryer. It's got some neutral loads that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, next we move on to the cooking. All right, so interesting thing about ours, if you remember how to do cooking, and by the way, if cooking appliances and ranges and cooktops confuses you, I have got an amazing video series over on Fast Tracks Tube that goes into ranges in detail. It's 2 parts. One's for the branch circuit and one's for the service and feeder load calculation. I think it's some of the best range calculation videos out there. I encourage you to go check it out. But you also can see how we did this in the standard method that we did a couple weeks ago on Coffee Hour. So go check out the one that we did the standard method. Check it out. You see how we calculated these ranges and how we did it. Right? So in this case, we'll kind of give a little summary of how we did that because we got to do it again here, right? So both of these right here, this 7 and this 6, make note 3 applicable. Note 3 says that, you know what? I can deviate from using column C in 220.55 as long as it falls under one of the other columns, A or B. And in this case, it all falls under B, okay? So 3.5 to 8 3/4, right? So they fall right niftily in B. Now, I still have to look at column C and see what the value would be because that might be a better result. But in this case, it's not a better result. So I'm going to use column B, and that yields the best. So you get to take the lesser of the two. So in this case, if you go and look at the note 3, it'll tell you just add the summation of the 2 appliances and then go to the table and see what the percentage modifier is. All right, so in this case, 6 plus 7 is 13, right? That's the total KW, and it's 2 units. So under column B, you go down to 2 units, and you'll see that the multiplier is 65%. So I take the full total KW, and I multiply that by 65%. And that gives me a what? 8.45. That is going to be less than going to column C for 2 appliances, which I can't remember, but I think is 11 kW. I can't remember, but I think that's what it is off memory. All right, so this is better. I'm going to use this. Now, once I establish that, that's what we use for the hot conductor. You remember. Here, I'm doing the neutral. So what does the neutral say? We just saw it. It says that I can apply an additional demand for the neutral. In this case, I take that 8.45, which is 8,450 watts, which is synonymous with VA, right? And I multiply that by 70%. And that equals 5,915. Boom. That is my neutral contribution. We've already done the sizing. Now, here's where other people get confused. We've already sized the conductors using the optional method. That's right. We've done that. We're just working on the neutral right now. That's it. And we were forced to use the standard method to size it, okay? All right. So the last thing we're going to be looking at is of those neutral loads when it comes to the heating and air conditioning loads, we do not have to worry about the air compressor because that's a 230-volt load, right? We don't worry about it. But that blower and that condensing fan are. Now, here's the other thing to remind people. This is a case where it's not one of those things where you're doing the larger of the two. Doesn't matter. Even if you had a discount of the AC and we went with the heat like we did in our calc, it doesn't matter because when it is running on the AC, you will have neutral contribution. So since we're sizing the neutral, we have to take that into consideration. So we just are isolating the neutral contribution loads. In this case, the air handler was, and the condensing fan motor was. All right, so we need to make sure that we add that to our neutral because it's consuming, it has neutral current on it, right? So remember, it's that little exercise we did, but it's 16.6 amps, right, here for the air conditioning, but we don't use it because that's 230. What we are using is a 2 amps times 115, that's 230. And then that air handler, 3.2 times 115, that is 368 VA. Add the two together, 598 VA. That is our contribution to the heating and air conditioning load when it comes to the neutral loads. Okay, now, last thing we have to do, remember the standard method is one little thing that we have to do is we still have to find that largest motor. And the only thing is, we're only looking for that largest motor that gives me a neutral contribution. So that's where other people can go wrong. They go, well, I'm looking for the largest motor. I can find the one that, that air conditioning motor is large, but it doesn't have a neutral. So you're looking for the largest motor with the neutral contribution to do this, okay? So in this case, it was that 1/2 horsepower in-sink waste disposer. That was our largest motor that did have a neutral component to it, right? All right. And again, remember, motors, we're always looking typically for motors that have HP ratings because if they're typical appliances like a dishwasher that doesn't have an HP rating, it's typically not a motor utilization equipment, and we wouldn't use it for this example in using 220.50 to find the largest motor. All right. So there's our value, that in-sink waste right here. So we looked at all of them. And obviously, of the motors, that type of thing. And most trash compactors will also have an HP because it has a compression motor on it. So that's why I included that in the list. But I'm reminding you at the end of the day, this is such a small amount that it may not impact anything. But so again, you may have a situation. So if you're in an exam and they don't understand and they want you to take something like a dishwasher into this consideration, I encourage you to do the math really quickly, because it only takes a second. Look for the answers and do one with the largest motor being, let's say, the dishwasher, if that was the largest motor, versus not using it and using something like the next largest, like that's actually a real motor, like the in-sink waste valve, and compare the answers, okay? And then choose the best logical answer, because we cannot dictate how an exam writer or somebody might interpret something or whatever. I can just tell you through the years, and based on examples, based on NFPA examples, based on books that I've written and been a part of, we look for pure motors, things that have the potential for a horsepower rating on it when we're selecting it. At the end of the day, we're talking about 282 volt amps here. So you take the largest motor times 25%, and you're saying, where are we doing only 25%? Because 220.50 says take the largest motor at 125%, but it ends up sending you to 430.24, where that tells you take largest motors at 125% and the sum of the other motors in the same group, where they're on the same service, so you know they're in the same group. So I've already taken the motor at its rating, but I didn't take it at 125%. So in order to meet this rule, I gotta grab that additional 25%. So I'm just hunting for the largest motor to take that 25% that I didn't get, okay? Makes sense? So that's why we do the additional 25%. So find that motor that you probably took at 100% before any other derating, find it and apply 25% to it, and that's how we got 281.72, which we're gonna round to 282. Could you take the full amount right here and use it? Absolutely, you could. It's not going to make a hill of beans in the overall scheme of life, but we're around it to 282. All right. So that brought everything together for our neutral. So now let's just, so we got everything. We went over everything. It seems like we got all our neutral loads. So let's crunch the numbers. That was our number for our general lighting and general use. And again, that includes general lighting, general use receptacles, small appliance, and laundry. We did the math. Those were our fixed in place appliances. We did the neutrals for that. We did apply the 75% to this, to the original amount, and that's how we came up with this, okay? We had the clothes dryer, which was 55, but we used the 70. That's where we got this. Cooking appliances, 8,450, right? But we applied the 70% because that's what it told us we could do in 220.61B. Then we got the air handler and condensing fan. We did those. That was 598. And then we had that largest motor, which is 282. Now we add all these together. Again, don't trust me, guys, except for those that are driving. Keep your hands on the wheel. Focus ahead. Okay, we want to lose no electricians today. Okay, none of you great electricians today. All right, so we'll add this all together. 3 plus 3850 plus 5915 plus 598. Plus 282. Okay, 20, there we go. Old trusted Casio gave us the same number. Boom, boom, boom. All right, Casio, we trusted you. So now we're going to take that number and we're going to divide that by 240 because that's what our system voltage is. And here we get 88.529. 88.529. Yep. And so what we're going to do is just round this to 89 amps. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you, Paul. I always love it when students do the math, check and double check. Hold on here. I'm about to lose TikTok here. Behind the scenes over on TikTok, they're not seeing any of this. Guys, on TikTok, you need to come over here. Okay. How many of you on there watch TikTok and watch this so you can see behind the scenes? Now that is a die-hard viewer right there. All right, so 89 amps. Okay, so under the calculation of our neutral, I have to have a conductor that is good enough to handle 89 amps, okay? All right, so 89 amps. So then we go down and go, okay, well, I need 89 amps that if we were to go to 31016 in the NEC, we'll see that a 3 copper is required for 89 amps or a 2 aluminum is required for 89 amps, okay? Now, one of the now let's do that real quick since we have a few seconds. And I will do the spin the wheel at the end. So if you hung around for the giveaways, hang in there. We're going to do a mass drawing at the end here where I'm going to spin the wheel multiple times. We'll get you covered. Don't leave. Don't go away yet. Don't leave. I want to give away some stuff. But I got to get this lesson out because this is the last part of this series. So for this one, I want to get this all out. All right. So if we go over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to look at 31016 really quickly for the amps to verify our amps. And if you've been with me this long, you don't want to go away yet. You've been with me this long today. All right, here's our 31016, right? And we need 89 amps, okay? All right, so we need 89 amps. Now, you might be saying, well, does that mean we're going to be in a 60-degree column because of 110.14C1? Because we are not over 100 amps? No, because the lugs are going to be relevant to the size that we did for the service. So that was over 100. So you know that those terminations are going to be 75 degree. Okay. But anyway, let's look down the numbers here and see what we got. So let's see here. It says 3 copper is good for 100. We needed 89. So that wasn't going to work. So we need at least 3 copper right here for that. And then aluminum, we need, let's see here, aluminum. Let's see if I can pin the header here. Let's go to the right. See what we need for aluminum. We're in, okay, this is 75 for 3. So this looks like a 2, and we need 100 because 90 is okay for 89 amps. So that's where we got. Now, there's one more thing that you folks need to be aware of, and I'll bring it back to the lesson to point this out, is this little note right here. So the grounded conductor must not be smaller than the grounding conductor per 250.102C1, and that is referenced in 250.24C. And if you're in the 2023, it's 250.24D. So what that means is, okay, you did the calculation. You know the conductor size you need. You seem to appear that you need a 3 copper because we're always going to assume copper unless stated otherwise, right? Okay, so 3 copper. Always, again, on an exam, folks, consider copper always unless they tell you to use aluminum. Copper always, okay? All right, so there we go. So we think it needs to be 3 based on our load calc. So then it tells us in the code to go look and just compare it to 250.102C1, right? So I'm going to do that. Let's go to the code, and I'm going to go here. And if you say, where does it say that? Go to 250.24. You'll see that. All right, and where it references this table. So we're going to go here and right there. Okay. All right. So notice the heading of this is grounded conductors, bonding conductors, and jumpers. So we're talking about the grounded conductor. It may be a neutral, but it is definitely a grounded conductor. Okay, so that's important to remember that a neutral is always a grounded conductor, but not all grounded conductors are neutrals, and that's for a whole nother episode if you don't understand what I just said. All right. And so when we look at that, we just go to the table. And here's the table. And so you notice that the table says grounded conductor. So in our case, we cannot be smaller than what's given in this table. So what size were the conductors that we chose? Remember when we did the optional method? What size did we choose? It was a 1 copper, remember? Or 2-aught aluminum. Those were our optional ungrounded hot conductor sizes. So and that's what we're using here. Again, the largest ungrounded conductor. So since it was 1, and if you don't remember that, got to go back and watch those other episodes. I'm not going to rehash that. So here is the 1 in copper right here. Okay. So right here, it would have to be at least a 6. And of course, ours is larger than that. Okay, ours is a 3. So again, this is the minimum. It can't be smaller than this, but it is larger than this because we did the actual calculated load. We did it. We did all the math. Now, if it was 2-aught aluminum, then the aluminum grounded conductor would have to be at least 4 in our scenario. Okay, but as you say, we come back to our lesson and you'll see that right here, you'll see that R was 2. And 2 is larger than a 4. Hopefully you understand how the American wire gauge works. 2 is larger than a 4. So our calculation yielded the larger conductor. But we had to check it and verify that we're at least meeting the minimums that are stated in 250.24C or D, depending on the code cycle you're in. And it references us to 250.102. So we have to C1. So we have to reference that, and we're good. We're perfectly fine. So we're okay to go with those conductor sizes, okay? Now, can it be larger than that? Absolutely it can be. If you want to make it the same size as the ungrounded conductors, go for it. You're perfectly okay to do that, okay? But I'm just saying you, that's how we do it. Okay, folks, let's get in on the spin, #win. And let's do some spinning. Let's give some goodies away here. It's been a great episode. We finished up the optional. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you got any questions, post them in the comments. And if you want to feed the hog, we'll feed the hog. If you got a question, we'll do that. Okay. And so let's kind of spin it and see what we get. Y'all ready? Let's do it. Mike Cowdrey. Hey, Mike. We're going to spin it. We're going to spin it and we're going to see what you can win, my friend. We're adding some new goodies next week to the wheel. And I don't want to release those yet. So that wheel's going to get smaller and smaller. All right, Mike, Minimalist Wallet. So you get to choose the minimalist wallet of your choice. If you win the drawing on March 31st, then you can do the Can't Fix Stupid wallet. You can do the Master. You can do the Journeyman. You can do whichever one you want. You pick it. You let us know. We'll customize it for you and send it to you, just like we did one for John. Okay, so in this one, you're in the drawing. You didn't get the instant one. So again, you don't need to do anything. Just wait and you see if your name is drawn, and then we'll do an episode which it'll list all the winners. So you don't have to worry. Just sit back and relax, and you'll be in the drawing. All right. Let's do another one. All right, Dan, let's see what you get here, my friend. Let's go. See what you can get. Let's see if we can get you more drawings for that software. I need more winners. I need more people in that drawing. All right, we're in the drawing for the Ultimate Decision coin. That is actually a cool coin. Believe it or not, me and my wife use that coin. It says yes or no or whatever, but it's got many uses. But if we can't, how many of you have a spouse or somebody that when you say, hey, what do you want for dinner? And I don't care, whatever you want. And I'm like, well, I'm asking you because I don't want to decide. But you know what they go? They go, whatever you want. I'm like, oh, and I always feel like I'm the one making the decision. So I'll end up saying, if it's somewhere I want to go, I'll just throw it out there and I'll go, you know what? I'll say yes or no. Yes, we'll go to this place. No, and we'll flip the coin. If the coin says no, we pick another place and we flip the coin. I mean, that's kind of one of the funny ways that we use my decision coin, that type of thing. So, but you're in the drawing for one of those. So Dan, we'll let you know if you win. But they're cool little coins. Anybody wants one, you can go over to our website, fasttracksystem.com, and you can get them over there as well. All right, let's do it again. Let's spin again. Let's go. Hashtag win. Let's go. Piling up these giveaways here at the end, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. Remember to go back and watch the other series of this episode. It's part 1 and part 2. If you came in and you didn't see those, it's going to all make sense. Rob Mittman. All right, Rob. Watching over on our tube. All right, let's see what you can get, Rob. Let's see what we can give away. You're most welcome, Adam. Thanks for listening to the show. If you don't already have Fast Tracks 2, then you can get 12 months. If you already have Fast Tracks 2, we're more than happy to spin it again. And somebody asked me yesterday, if they won, can they give it to a friend? Not if your friend doesn't come here and join us. Okay, if your friend comes here and join us, then we can spin the wheel for your friend, or we can give it to your friend. But we're not just gonna give it to somebody that doesn't enjoy the show, right? I don't want to do that. That's no fair. So anyway, we got you down, Ron, for that one. Let's do another one real quick and see what we can give away. You already have the Fast Tracks Tube, or you've gotten a free subscription to it, then we can spin the wheel for you, Rob, and give you another chance at something else. Beto B. All right, Beto B. Let's spin the wheel and let's see what you're getting. All right, Rob wants to spin again. All right, Rob, we'll spin again here in a second. Let's see what Beto's going to get here. Beto gets the 12-month subscription of Fast Tracks Tube. Again, Beto, if you have that already, we can spin again. Only if you already have it. But how do you get it for those that won the free 12-month subscription? Just go to fasttrackstube.com, and at the top where it says member plans, click on it and sign up for a free membership, and then we'll see it, and within a couple of days we'll elevate you up, all right, to it. Okay, let's spin again for Rob. Rob already identifies that he has it. Let's go for Rob. Let's see if we can't get Rob something else here in the drawings. James had said something. He says I'm breaking the rules. I ain't breaking the rules, James. All right, it's just spinning crazily. We don't care about that. It's for you, Rob. So, Rob, you're in the conductor sizing card drawing. Okay. That's a nifty little card. It is a hard card. It's awesome. Let you know what's left on the reel. Conversation piece. Good stuff. Okay. All right. Let's do this one more time in giveaways, because I am over time and I want to be good stewards of your time. So let's do this one more time. Find somebody to give something away. I'm all about the spin here. I just realized that my wall over there looks like it's falling apart. All right, Joey Fontanes. All right, Joey. I'm sure I'm butchering your name, buddy. Let's go on and see what you can get, my friend. Let's go. No music this time. For Paul, I'll beatbox. Okay, it's enough. All right, Joey, let's see what you get. All right, Joey, you're in the drawing for that Master or Journeyman license plates that we have. They're engraved plates that we do here. So let me get you license plate drawing. All right. Okay, good deal. All right, folks. All right, great show. Covered a lot of information. Hopefully you got something out of it. Again, if you got lost in today's episode, do me a favor, go back and watch part 1 and part 2. Today's episode was dedicated to the neutral and how we use the standard method to calculate the neutral, even if we use the optional method to calculate the size of the ungrounded hot conductors. Because neutral conductors are found in part 3, and because part 4, which is optional, directs you to use 220.61 in part 3, I just walked you through how you do it. Now, if you want a more extensive video on it, a little more detail, then do me a favor. Go over to Fast Tracks Tube. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. And we appreciate it. It is our exclusive video platform. We think it's the best video player out there. It's very friendly for the mobile device, as well as tablets, as well as the computer. So check it out and give it a whirl. And if you haven't tried out the Hog yet, go test the Hog. Hog is sponsoring the show. Trade Hog is the sponsor of the show. Again, check it out. It's artificial intelligence for the trades. It makes your life so much easier in the field. and it learns each time you ask it a question during the string of conversation. And it's just going to make it so much easier to get those answers you need. So, we get paid to do it right one time. We don't get paid to do it twice. So anything we can do to reduce the errors, it's an amazing thing. All right. All right, folks, I appreciate you. Now, tomorrow we're going to have code questions again. Okay. And then on Friday, I believe that we're going to be doing calculations. Okay. We'll be talking about basics of calculations. Okay. I think that's what we're going to do. But as far as tomorrow, exam prep questions, our normal routine, because we just did 2 cycles of series. So I'm going to move to that. And then next week, we're going to shift into some grounding and bonding lessons. Okay. So look forward to that if you want to get deep into grounding and bonding and understanding the nuances there. Logan, I'll expect you there. All right. Till next time, stay safe. God bless. We'll catch you on the next episode of Coffee Hour.